3, 2, 1, go. So yeah, this is where we're going to set up the equipment glitch, which is our main glitch of the run, and this is also immediately the hard part, so... Okay, so now that that's done, let me quickly actually explain what's going on there. So this run is so much faster than every other version, in big part because of an equipment glitch. And basically what we're doing is we bought a hammer just now in town, and while we were in the menu, we set it to set, and then basically we load in the weapon slot of one of our characters, but we load it in on an armor slot, and that causes the ID of those weapons to load in on the armor slot. Now, lucky for us that the ID of the hammer actually corresponds with the ID of the knight's armor, which is the third most expensive piece of armor in the game, so right now everybody is fully protected. Can't really take any hits at this point, like everything will basically start dealing just 1 damage, so we don't really have to worry about anything. And on top of that, we have a lot of money, which means we'll have a lot of heal items. So that's basically the way that we're going to be going throughout this game. We'll use that glitch a few more times in the or coming up. One of which right here in the first dungeon to get a bit more of a decent weapon. But while we get there, I guess it's a good time for a quick roll call. So my name is Crrool. I'm joined here by my 2 fellow runners.
Boxmeister here.
My name is IndDragPack.
And we're basically, I believe, like number 2, 3, and 5 on console or something, so it should be a pretty close race. You might have already noticed that there's a lot of encounters going on, so that's gonna basically give anybody a decent shot at this race, because RNG is a very prevalent factor. Yeah, right there, we're gonna use the leather cap to get ourselves some judgment staffs, which is the most powerful staff in the game. Normally only obtainable in one of the bonus dungeons as a drop from Atomos. And we're going to move on to the first boss of the game. So yeah, one of you guys want to explain how the Garland fight works?
Yeah, hold X, basically.
Yeah, Garland, he's a really strong knight here. You know, he's captured the princess, and you know the king has asked us to save the princess. But you know, we're good at this. We're pretty strong. So yeah, that was the first boss of the game. It's literally hold X to win. You'll also see as we go through this first part that you already start seeing a bit of a difference in the run, in mostly in the RNG segment. Indy getting several wolves, a bit unlucky on the encounters. Not to say that that means it's completely done for him. It's absolutely not. It can really still go either way. There's plenty of chances for him to catch up as we go through this game. So back here in the castle, we're going to talk to the princess, and she's going to give us a very important item. We will be pointing out when we actually use that, which will be in about like an hour and 20 minutes-ish. So you'll have to wait for a little while before you get to see that. But that's the loot. It's a very important item in the game, and one you can actually miss in the NES version, but not in the PSP version. The princess will call you back, so we don't really have to worry about missing it. But we talk to her just to save a few frames, and it's on to a fantastic cutscene where we get to see the bridge built. Longest cutscene in the game.
Skippable. Well, cutscene afterwards is luckily skippable.
I having wonderful RNG here.
So yeah, basically all of the cutscenes in this game are skippable, except for like a fair few, and this is the longest one that isn't skippable. We see these soldiers building the bridge. It takes them a little while to do so, but you know, with that we can move on to the city of Provoca. Looks like Indy has gotten Garland down as well, so with that we're all through the first boss, and it's on to the rest of the game.
Work faster, people. That bridge needs to be done.
So here's that cutscene that Box was talking about. It's unskippable in every single version of the game, except for the PSP version. So we can just mash through it, and we skip basically a minute and a half there. It's a pretty significant time save. And on to the city of Provoca. Now, basically, the way that the story works is the king, he tells us, you know, we need a ship. We need to get to the crystals of the 4 crystals of light. but he doesn't really have a ship for us. But it turns out that there is one ship still remaining in Provoca, so we're going to try to get that. And it's also the first fight where we're going to see a bit of a route difference, potentially, depending on the RNG that gets.
Not at the fight, to be exact.
Not at the fight, but it does determine your routing a little bit, doesn't it, Box?
Yeah, there is some RNG involved. The pirates can drop a leather shield, which I'll need for my route. Otherwise, I'll have to buy it in Provoca. Luckily, there's an armor store really close by. So in case I don't get the drop from the pirates, I can just walk over and buy it. It'll save me something on the likes of 10 seconds.
And in Provoca you will see the second use of the Judgment Staff, because we can not only use it as a weapon to rearing it, we can also use it as an item in battle. Some weapons do have this effect, and the Judgment Staff casts Flare, which allows us to immediately kill all the pirates at once, even though it might take a while because there are 9 pirates we have to fight, so depending on the RNG and who goes first, this will take a little longer. Usually we defend with the warrior and use the Judgment Staff with all of the other 3 characters, because they should be faster than pirates.
Yeah, that is the secondary effect. That is a move called Flare, which is the strongest black magic spell in the game. So you gotta imagine, we're 6.5 minutes. You got the drop?
Yes, I
nice.
got the drop.
Let's go. For Indy and me, that doesn't really matter, by the way, because we're using a slightly different route. It's a bit of a more classic route that, on average, is a little bit slower, but can be faster if you get good RNG. So
NPC, please.
It kind of works out in the end.
The NPCs in this game can be very trolling sometimes. You may notice this at several occasions during the run.
Now for the worst part of probably the worst part of the early game, we're gonna take the ship, and the ship is awful because there are awful encounters on the sea.
So now that we have a ship, you might think, well, let's go continue our quest. Let's restore the crystals. Unfortunately, the outside sea has been closed off by a peninsula, I think. But there are dwarves working on breaking down the peninsula to make a canal. But they need something powerful to deal with that. Nitro powder. There is nitro powder in Cornelia Castle, where we spoke with the king. But he isn't really giving it to us. So it's behind a locked door. Luckily, there exists a key to open this door, owned by the Elfen Prince in Elfheim, where Crrool just passed by, and where I'll be passing by. But unfortunately, once again, the Elfen Prince is in a very deep sleep. Has been put under a curse. But there exists a potion to dispel this curse, owned by a witch in the north. And yes, disaster strikes again. This witch has been rendered blind by the fact that she lost her crystal eye. This eye, in turn, yeah, this is really long-winded now, is in the possession of Astos, the dark elf who wants to be the true Elven King. And wow, I got really unlucky here. But we can't trigger the fight until we got the crown, which we need to get from the March Cave. So, all in all, this first part of the game is a really long, giant fetch quest.
Yeah, so just to sum that up, we're gonna grab the crown in order to get the to talk to Astos, so we can get the Mystic Eye, so that we can give that to Matoya, so she can get us the Jewel Tonic, so that we can give that to the Elven Prince to get the Mystic Key, be able to unlock the door to get the Nitro Powder, so that we can give it to the dwarves, and in turn give that, and that will give us access to like the later parts of the game, like the ocean that is currently not yet connected to this ocean. So it's just a massive fetch quest, and that'll take about like the first 20-ish minutes of the game. So we're like about another 10-15 minutes for us to get that done. After that, we can actually get to the 4 crystals. Well, we can get to one of them. We're going to collect the first of the 4 crystals. basically the way that the story works is that Garland, the guy that we fought at the start, isn't really defeated yet because there is a time portal and he is 2,000 years into the past. And by unlocking the light of the 4 crystals, we can travel 2,000 years into the past, defeat him once again in order to prevent all of the disaster that's happening right now from even happening to begin with. So we're going to try to break that time loop, and well, we'll see how we'll get through that. So Marsh Cave here, pretty straightforward dungeon. It's also the dungeon with the lowest amount of encounters. The Pisgah Demons that you saw both on my end and on Boxmeister's end is actually a spiked tile, meaning a tile that will always spawn that encounter. So we'll just kill that off. It is also unrunnable because it's kind of considered a mini-boss. But after that, we can just move out and make our way to Astos. Now, one thing you'll note is we're going to take the left path here to avoid forest tiles. Indy, I don't know if you want to go into the forest plains a little bit.
You will see that we try to avoid the forest as much as we can because the encounter rate in the forest is actually higher than on the normal grass tiles. So we... damn. I want to do a little bit more grinding here. We try to take a little off way so we can go a little bit more on the grass because there's an encounter rate a little bit lower. Yeah, but unfortunately for some areas it doesn't really work. You will see plenty of areas where we actually have to go through a big forest where we get a lot of encounters.
So yeah, here we come up to the Astos fight, and this is actually a fight that changed a lot over the years. Currently, what we're going to be doing is we're going to attack with the warrior and the thief, and we're going to use the judgment staff with the mages. We're hoping for him not to cast death, and if he does so, either miss or does not use it on at least the mages. Back in the day, we actually used to glitch ourselves an additional sword to speed up this fight a little bit, but it ended up being kind of out of the way. It wasn't really fast to do that. So we started just attacking him, which worked, except it would always be a 2-turn fight, and that really isn't ideal. But at some point we figured out, but wait, we can actually use 2 judgment staffs because the mages will deal enough damage with that, and we can basically make it a almost guaranteed 1-turn fight. So let's see if we can get 3 1-turn fights here. Looks like I got it.
I'm gonna get it.
Box got it as well. Indy is heading that way as we speak, so he'll be there shortly.
Sorry.
Because he did cast death on me, I will have to revive my warrior again. But luckily it's the warrior, so it doesn't really matter.
I got the physical attack, which is the fastest thing he can do in this fight.
Warrior's probably the best thing that can happen. Like, if someone dies.
Yeah, if someone dies, the warrior is the least bad one. He doesn't deal that much damage. He doesn't really need the experience. He doesn't really need any levels. At the end of the day, if anybody has to die, that's the ideal one for that to happen.
So yeah, right now, after picking up the crystal, I will make our way to Matoya's cave. Unfortunately, it's far to the north of Cornelia's, which means we have to get through all of these forest tiles to get back to the ship, and then through a large portion of sea. Which is quite annoying in terms of encounters, basically.
Yeah, this is really that part where RNG just becomes a very prevalent factor. We don't really have any items that help us run yet. We'll get more into that when we actually start getting those soon. So RNG just plays a major role as we go through the forest. And you can actually see that here, in that just Boxmeister just completely passed me. So it stays really close, and there is really a chance for anybody to catch up. Indy now also having defeated Astos, I believe that was also a 1-turn fight. Yeah. So all in all, we had a pretty decent Astos. At least I think between the 3 of us, it was all pretty all right.
One thing that just happened on my screen, what you may have seen, is that I've got the preemptive strike. Preemptive strikes means that you get an entire attack round before your enemies can attack, and enemies like this, that basically means you have a free runaway. The opposite that can happen here is that you get a ambush. That means that your enemies get a full attack round before you.
which depending on the enemy can be very, very worse.
The number of enemies also
Very bad.
matters here there.
So I got very unlucky here with 5 Sahagins that just won't let me run away. This is one of those places where you just lose a lot of time to RNG. It's kind of runner's choice whether you want to just try to run from it, which is possible, or you're just going to kill it. The downside is killing it takes about 8 seconds, just because of the length of the animation from Flare. So that's about the equivalent of three attempts to run.
One thing that is also worth mentioning is when we get XP and get a level up, the amount of HP we get is random, which really matters on the final fight where our characters need a certain amount of HP to survive the attacks. So we hope for good RNG here.
Yeah, the interesting part about that is that I actually only ever get a maximum roll on the HP value or a minimum roll. So you never get a value in between. So it differs a lot per run as to how much HP you end up having. So get to Matoya here, we're going to get that Jolt Tonic. Now you may have noticed those brooms running around, and I do quickly want to point those out. Because a French runner of this game, Aosabe, actually once lost a world record to one of those brooms getting stuck in the doorway beneath. It's very unlikely to happen, but they can get stuck in there, and that can just easily lose you 10-15 seconds. It's really annoying when that does. I've only had it happen once, but he ended up, like, I believe 10 seconds away from world record after having lost, like, 15 to 20 seconds on a broom getting stuck in the doorway.
Which is really sad.
But there are several NPCs that can block your way. You may have seen it in Cornelia, where the blue-haired NPC was in front of the item shop, which was very unfortunate, but yeah, this is Final Fantasy 1.
There's a lot of ways that little things like that, be it in terms of random encounters, be it in terms of NPCs, or even other things, because there's plenty of stuff that can just change a run completely. So it looks like, well, if nothing else, it looks like it's closed up a bit. Looks like Indy has gotten the Jolt Tonic as well.
No brooms this time.
No brooms, and we're both on the sea, so we're pretty close together all in all. If Indy gets a decent walk all the way to the Mystic Key, then we're not too far apart going into the second part of the game.
And there are so many areas where the lead can change any second, especially when we get some unrunnables, so encounters you actually can't run away from. Currently we only have like encounters that just give us a hard time, but there are actually encounters we have to fight, which is pretty bad when we get a lot of them.
Yeah, we still have bad equipment to run away from enemies, but we're gonna work on that right about now, I think. Because here in the Elfin Castle there is a door also locked by, which can also be unlocked by the Mystic Key, which enables us to get a Mithril Hammer, and that Mithril Hammer glitches into some very nice items, if I can get the equivalent glitch, that is. There we go, Thief's Armlet.
Yeah, so the Thief Armlets each give +5 agility for each one that's equipped, so it becomes a massive boost in our agility, which in turn will help us greatly with running away.
Got the Mystic Key. Also, I just noticed here in this throne hall there are swans. So shout out to Swansake. Yeah, there I wanna go.
Okay, so we're gonna go into the item shop, sell these Knight's Armors, and the reason for that is we want to get some gold needles. I think Boxmeister isn't going to sell them just yet, but the main thing is we're going to get some gold needles, and that's really just for safety for later on. They cure petrification, which is the only way that we can cure it, and in the next big dungeon that we go into, there are enemies that can petrify you, and a party member that's petrified basically counts as dead. So if that becomes a thing, we really want to have those gold needles to be able to just survive.
Is this a good time for donations?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, we have $10 from Anonymous, who says, please give the Symphony of the Night Richter run some love, good people of the hosting desk. I can't pay for all of it. Oh, and save the children too, I guess. Yes, please save the children. Please donate. Every dollar goes straight to them. We have a couple more anonymous donations. $10 from an anonymous and $5 from an anonymous.
Here in Cornelia Castle, for my route, I'll be definitely picking up an extra item. For the old route, that's optional. It allows you an equipment glitch later, which increases safety, and I'll take that safety, but also it allows me to glitch another item. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that when we get there, but you'll notice over the course of the run that Boxmeister is going to be picking up a few additional items. And that's that alternate route that I mentioned, where on average it's a little bit faster. It can turn out to be slower if you get really good RNG. So in an ideal situation, you'd actually lose time on it, but it can help him over the course of the run. Looks like I'm getting some pretty bad RNG here, which is going to give Boxmeister a good chance to just increase his lead a little bit.
Unless you get an ambush, of course.
Unless you get, yeah, but I mean, Sahag and Big Eyes, those are some nasty encounters, that's for sure.
Sahagins have quickly become my newest arch nemesis in this game.
Yeah, so even though we have a decent chance of running, they can still paralyze you, which, you know, basically just cripples your party, just making it incredibly painful to try and run away from it. And just on that, it can lose a lot of time.
So here, finally, we get to the end of our fetch quest, where we open up the canal. This cutscene is very long, but we can skip part of it. With this nice dwarf applying the nitro powder, and I don't know how that cave even holds that explosion without the water rushing in.
Yeah, how this works and how the cave doesn't flood is really beyond any of us, but apparently it doesn't flood, so I guess we're fine.
You're questioning the physics in a game where people can throw fireballs in your face?
Don't forget the flying airships.
Oh yeah. So, this game doesn't surprise me at all.
Wait. Indy, are we completely synced up right now? Is
Wow.
that
Wow,
that
nice.
is
Look
I mean,
at that.
Box might be a little bit ahead, but Indy and me synced up to the frame basically. That is quite beautiful.
Wow.
So yeah, this just goes to show how incredibly quickly leads can change in this game. One bad encounter and it's just
Nice.
completely synced up again.
I look left and right and I see the same thing.
So yeah, Box is, I want to say probably about half a minute ahead or something, but it's it really can change with one bad encounter and it's just all done again. So
Boom!
it's a double boom even.
Oh, nice.
This is really nicely synced up, Indy. I thought that's pretty good.
We will see how this turns out.
Yeah, RNG can make some interesting races for FF1. For example, during the tournaments, we've had several occasions where participants finished within 1 or 2 seconds of one another.
Yeah, so even though this game is super RNG heavy, it really still ends up kind of evening out over the course of a run. We are slightly afraid of, you know, one runner getting really trolled and one really getting really lucky, because that can happen. But all in all,
Yes.
at the end of the day, it usually syncs up quite a bit.
Here in Melmond, you also see a different menu on my screen than you will on Crrool and Indy's stream. The reason is that I'll do a slightly different route menu-wise. Come on.
Yeah, he's only going to be equipping the Barbarian Sword on, I believe, 2 of his characters, whereas we're going to be equipping it on 4 of our party members. And like, this is a pretty significant part of the route here. We're going to get the Steel Glove to get the Barbarian Swords, and now I kind of want to give you guys a bit of an idea of how powerful this sword is. So I'm going to compare it to Excalibur. You know, pretty good sword, right?
Legendary.
Pretty legendary sword even. But yeah, it's the Barbarian Sword has a base power almost 3 times as high as Excalibur, on top of which it grants me a strength boost of 15 for every party member that has it equipped. So normally, just for comparison, Excalibur has a base power of, I believe, 45, whereas the Barbarian Sword has a base power of 125, and it outshines every single other sword in the game, usually by at least double the base power, if not triple the base power. So it's an incredibly overpowered weapon. You'd normally only get it by beating the hardest version of the super boss Chronodia, which is in a PSP unique bonus dungeon. It's almost impossible to even get there, let alone beat her. And we just glitch that on every single party member that we have, and in the case of both Indy and me, including the mages. So you gotta imagine a mage wielding the most powerful sword in the game. And you'll see soon how powerful that actually is, because we're going to be coming up on a mini-boss pretty shortly, the vampire. But as we go through this dungeon, we're also going to be making our first safety save of the run as soon as we enter B3. We've agreed on a couple of safety saves over the course of the run, because there are a few things that can kill you, though it's pretty rare. For this floor specifically, there is an encounter called the Cockatrice, which has a chance to petrify a party member upon hit. Now, let's say you were to get ambushed by 4 of those, and they all got petrification off, then, you know, you'd be in a pretty bad position at that point, because, again, if they are petrified, they basically count as dead.
In the Melmond menu, I glitched an additional item. Basically, that's the reason why I picked up the leather shields. The Mage's Staff. The Mage's Staff casts Firaga on the enemies. And Firaga in general is really well against undead enemies and has a shorter animation than Flare does.
So I quickly wanted to point out a vampire fight right there. That is a mini-boss in the game. That's the first boss we fight with the barbarian swords equipped. And you just saw me one-shot that thing, I believe even with a mage. So you gotta imagine, a mage one-shotting a mini-boss just like that with a physical attack. It's pretty good.
Got time for a donation?
Yeah, go ahead.
We have $50 from Poor Scythe. He says, good luck, Crrool, Box, and Indy. Please put this towards the Hellfire Chasm race. Thank you so much, Poor Scythe, for the $50.
On the note of the Hellfire Chasm race, how are we doing on that incentive? Because I am a little bit curious on that.
I will check for you. Give me a second.
Ah!
Come on.
Full paralysis
Ooh,
lock.
Box getting
Playing
the paralock. This is what we consider a paralock, which is where 4 of your party members get paralyzed. This is a really, really dangerous position to be in.
And
I'm gonna reset.
And this is why you safety save, because I got 5 Cockatrices ambush. Not something you want to see.
Yeah, so this is why that safety save is so important on that floor. It still loses a lot of time, but had he died, or had either of them died to that encounter without a safety save, they would have been set back to the beginning of the game.
Hey, let's go with another ambush. Yay.
Update on the Hellfire Chasm. We're currently on $240 out of 500, so 260 left.
No encounter, still vampire, sorry.
So yeah, if you want to see that, make sure to get your donations in quick. Thank you.
Yeah, so just to give you guys at home a bit of an idea, we'll be cutting off that incentive as we go into the second fight against the Kraken, which is about an hour 25 into the run. And I kind of want to give you guys a bit of an idea as to what's going to happen in that race. The Hellfire Chasm is a dungeon existing at 10 floors, all of them in random order with random spawn points, and for one of the floors specifically, even being completely different floors altogether, depending on what RNG you get. Me and Indy will be racing that against each other. It's a fantastic dungeon to look at. So yeah, do get those in, because it is an incredibly fun thing to do. On top of which, there are some bosses from other Final Fantasies in that dungeon, specifically the Elemental Fiends from Final Fantasy IV.
Oh, my body.
So, yeah, there is some hype in that dungeon, I can tell you that, but do need to get it met if we want to see that. That's still a bit of a thing, of course.
And if you want to know how this dungeon looks like, the floor is basically lava.
So I'm coming up on the giant here. Basically, the reason we didn't actually continue after the picking up the Star Ruby just now is, you know, a little bit further into the cave, there's actually a stone slab that's blocking our path, and we can't actually progress past that point unless we have the Earth Rod. Now, we can only get the Earth Rod if we have the Star Ruby, because this giant is blocking our path here. I don't know, by the way, where that giant went, because, you know, the floor ends here, and he really doesn't seem like it doesn't really seem as if he would fit on that staircase, but we'll just go with it.
Out of bounds.
I guess he might be going out of bounds
no.
there. But yeah, it's one of those places where, again, it's a bit of a fetch quest that we need to do in order to get the Earth Rod. Ideally, you want to get the Earth Rod at around the 30-minute mark. We've all had pretty bad RNG so far. I'll just consider it marathon luck, I suppose. But that does by no means mean we're done here. See, I'm going to pick up the Earth Rod at 30:20, which is not that great a time, but it's still doable. It's still pretty workable. I'm guessing Box is probably about a minute away from it, and Indy probably about 2 to 3, but that can still very much change over the course of the next few dungeons.
Yeah.
A lead early on in this really means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, luckily I regained back some of my time because I've got no encounters on the second. Let's try getting to the vampire.
I'm losing a little bit of time here because I'm getting a comeback with the Pisgah Demons, which are normal encounters in this dungeon, or at least on these floors, and they are not runnable, so I have to fight them. And maybe a little excursus back to the Judgment Staff. When there are more than 3 enemies, it's faster to just use the Judgment Staff on the enemies. If there are less than 3, it's faster to just attack them with the Barbarian Sword. And if there are just 3, then it doesn't really matter. So then you just do whatever you are on. Because I think the Judgment Staff has like 8-second animation.
Yeah, it's 8 seconds, which is about the equivalent of 3 physical attacks. So that's about where the cutoff is for switching around in a menu. And it's really, it's the first really nasty encounter that we'll get across. Mostly because you just can't run away from it, and everything else in this dungeon is no problem to get away from. So it's quite an issue to encounter those and then try and get away. So yeah, back on B3, we're gonna make another safety save here. Let's all just make sure we can actually get through this thing alive, and we'll make our way to the first crystal of the run. Now again, we need to collect the light of all 4 of the crystals, and interestingly enough, we can actually do all 4 of them in any order we want, except for one. The first one has to be the Earth Crystal, unless you use some major game-breaking glitches that we don't even know exist. But other than that, you know, if you follow the storyline, you can the game kind of allows you to sequence break, and we will abuse that later. But the first one has to be the Earth Crystal. So at this point, we're kind of set on the route that we're using.
I'm having very bad movement here.
So the difference between Indy and me is about 3 minutes, a little under 3 minutes. Box, I did not notice his Earth Rod time, so...
About a minute from yours.
Okay, so still fairly close. 3 minutes might seem like it is a lot, and for a lot of games it is, but for this game that really doesn't say anything just yet.
That can change instantly.
Yeah, it can change it over the span of literally 1 dungeon.
1 encounter even.
1 encounter if you get even more unlucky.
Or maybe on the final boss.
Or on the final boss. We've seen some significant lead changes still on that. Literally anything can still happen. I'm getting fairly unlucky with a few Pisgah Demons now, so you know that might give the other 2 a bit of a shot to catch up a little. We'll see what happens.
We got time for a donation?
Go ahead.
We have $10 from Niena Oranar, who says, I kind of promised Indy to donate, so here goes. Indy, Crrool, and Box, good luck on the race. Thank you so much.
Very kind.
So here we come up on the 5th floor. This is the floor where the first major boss of the game is at. And it's another one of those places where we kind of agreed we would make a safety save, because this first boss is incredibly dangerous. This is probably For Box, it definitely is. But for Indy and me as well, it's probably the most dangerous boss in the game. He has a move called Blazara, which can basically one-shot your entire party in one go. Chances are he doesn't even use it, in which case, you know, that's ideal. But there is a chance that he'll go for it, and that would be... yeah, you'll see if it happens.
Not taking another risk with the whites.
Yeah. Even if you race this game, you definitely should save before this fight.
Yeah, there are ways to make it 100% consistent, but they're just slower than even saving as well, so we just don't go for it. And that was the Lich. That's the first major fight of the game done for me. 35, that's a pretty average time, to be honest. It's anything under 40 minutes means you're still on a pretty okay pace. Ideally, you want to get around like the 32, 33 mark if you're going for PBs, and around like 35, 36 if you're for a marathon setting. Going over that, not really being that big a deal. Like I said, sub 40 is ideally what you're looking for, and I think we're at least all on pace to get that.
I'd say my prayers there, because this fight is really dangerous on the new route, because I have less barbarian swords equipped.
Yeah, so because Boxmeister doesn't have as many swords, it's going to be a lot. He can't really use his mages, so it's a lot bigger. Ah, nice. You got it. Gets. Yeah, that is the biggest fight of the game down for or the toughest fight of the game down for Box as well.
The major hurdle.
Oh.
And with that, we're gonna go grab ourselves a canoe. One of you guys want to explain what the canoe actually does, because it's a pretty good item.
The canoe allows us to paddle along the rivers and lakes, denoted on the world map by the slightly lighter blue water. It also allows us some travel options. Basically, three major options, travel options are obtained. Mount Gulk, where the fire crystal is at. Cavern of Ice, where the crystal...
The Levy Stone?
Yeah, thank you. The Levy Stone is at. The Levy Stone allows us to get an airship. And finally, the Citadel of Trials. The Citadel of Trials, you can obtain the Red Steel, which in turn can give you the class upgrade from Bahamut.
Yeah, so the interesting thing here is that the game kind of expects you to go to Mount Gulk. It kind of just tells you that's where you'll find the next crystal, so, you know, you gotta go there. But we're gonna ignore the game here. This is the first point in the game where we're actually kind of gonna sequence break things. The game allows us to do this. It fully gives you that freedom. But instead of going to Mount Gulk to get the second crystal, we're going to go to the Cavern of Ice, which is probably by far the most deadly dungeon in the game. We'll get to that in a little bit. But we're going to get that to get the Levy Stone, because the airship is so much faster and it doesn't give any overworld encounters. So it is a fantastic way for us to travel around the map, speeding up several things pretty quickly. This is also where the route, in terms of dungeon order, really differs from the glitchless route, which goes to the Citadel of Trials first. They also sequence break there, but in a different way, because there is a few swords in that dungeon that are really useful for the glitchless run.
Here in Crescent Lake, where Crrool's at, the new route and the old route once again differ. I picked up the mithril knife in Cornelia Castle, so that allows me not only to glitch black garbs on the white mage, it also allows me to glitch the black ropes. And the black rope is an item similar to the mage's staff that it casts a spell, a Blazaga in this case.
Yeah, we'll get more into the use of those spells when we get there, but they are pretty useful items to have over the course of those runs.
Also, I sell the knight's armors here, in order to have my menu ordered properly.
So yeah, I think Indy just passed Lich as well, all under the 40-minute mark. That was a 38 for Indy, I believe. So, I mean, it's not a great time, but it's definitely a very acceptable time. So yeah, Lich actually not giving any of us major issues, I believe. So It's nice of the game to at least give us that much.
I also glitched another item here in Crescent Lake, by the way. I'll equip Lust Daggers on the mages. The Lust Daggers give decent agility and decent attack. Whoops. One black robe. Once I glitch over it, it will get added to my inventory.
So yeah, we're gonna go towards Cavern of Ice here, and Indy, you want to explain what the Cavern of Ice can do to us?
The Cavern of Ice can do a lot of things. First of all the two reasons we go there is first to pick up the Levystone, so we can obtain the airship. And the second one is that there's a little boss fight called the Evil Eye, where we grind our mages to level 18, because we need a specific level to learn new spells. But in order to get to that point, we have to go through the whole cave, and we're gonna encounter a few very dangerous encounters, like the white dragons, which if you get an ambush or don't run away, they can easily kill you, as well as the dark wizards, which have, I think, like a 25% to ambush.
Yeah, dark wizards have a pretty decent chance to ambush. Both of those are fairly rare encounters, luckily. White dragons being a 1 in 64 per encounter, and dark wizards a 3 in 64 per encounter. But both of them have some pretty powerful elemental spells.
So yeah, not a place you wanna hang around for too long. As well as there are another or a bunch of cockatrices that can petrify you, and some undeads that can paralyze you. We saw it on Box's screen earlier, where he got almost paralogged, which is very unfortunate.
So yeah, and if all of that wasn't enough, there is yet another encounter. It's I believe a 6 in 64, the Mind Flyers, which have a chance to, first of all, instantly paralyze your entire party in one shot, using the Mind Blast spell. And if that wasn't enough, they also have the possibility to kill a party member upon hit. So all of those incredibly dangerous encounters. So there's just so many things in this dungeon that just tries to kill you outright. And because we're also, on top of all of that, a little bit under-leveled, which we're going to be throughout the run, but it doesn't really matter because of our equipment. But because we don't have that elemental protection, it just gets even worse. As we go through the run, we'll pick up some items to help us protect against elemental spells, but right now it's such a dangerous thing to go through. And this is really that dungeon where that becomes very prevalent. So you'll see all of us making probably 3 or 4 safety saves as we go through that dungeon, and that is not without reason. It is very easy to lose a lot of time in this place.
2 or 3.
Cool got another spike tile there, so if you get an ambush there, it's definitely worth it to reset, because depending on how many you get, they can easily paralock you.
Yeah, if you get like a 9 encounter ambush on that tile, it's basically worth it to just, it's basically faster to just reset, load in the game again, and try and just kill them, or try to just get a non-ambush encounter. So yeah, some specters over here trying to get me locked into paralysis.
I'm getting really good luck here.
Yeah, Box getting really good luck actually, completely surpassing me basically. And the preemptive Dark Wizards as well, so I guess the lead changes once again. This is what we mean with, you know, anything can happen, and this is one of those dungeons where things can just very, very quickly change around. So over the course of this run, you may have noticed that we weren't really healing our warrior and our thief, and that has a reason. We actually want to kill those off on this Evil Eye fight here, and that is just for grinding reasons. We're waiting for Thundara. I got lucky and got it in the first turn.
Second turn.
Box got it on the second turn, so it's still pretty good. We're going to leave the mages alive, and this is that one point in the run where we're actually going to grind stuff. And I know, grinding is boring.
I have a slightly shorter grind than you do, because I'll only need level 17.
Yes, Box needs to grind a little bit less, but All in all, it's still like it's a very, very short grind, and the only reason we need to do this is because we want to get a couple of spells. Specifically, we want to get Hilara, we want to get Haste, and we want to get Teleport. Those are 3 spells. We'll explain them when we get there, but those are just massive, massive helps throughout the run. And since it's a spike tile, you know, it's one step to get back on there and just trigger another battle.
Got time for a donation?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
We have $5 from Holly, who says, need to see more of this awesome game. Good luck to the runners. Thank you, Holly, for $5.
2 more levels.
I think in the meantime, Indy has also made it into the Cavern of Ice, so we're all in the same dungeon again. Let's see how the last part is going to treat us.
Probably very bad, but you never know.
You could have that God Cavern of Ice for once. Never know what happens.
17 plus 1.
So yeah, I need one more fight right now, and so does Box. I think we're pretty much tied up again.
Won't revive the warrior yet. This is to get some more levels on my thief. Ooh.
The 8 encounter ambush. I got a 9 encounter preemptive, so I got very lucky there, and Box got unlucky. And this is, again, it just immediately goes to show how quickly a lead can just switch over back and forth. Just that one encounter changing it once more. I'm getting a couple of Spectres here, which can actually cause a pretty big time loss as well if they continue what they're doing, but luckily my Black Mage got away from it. And I believe Indy is slowly but steadily making his way through the Cavern of Ice. This is another one of those encounters. I don't think we actually pointed this one out, but this is another 1 in 64, the Ice Giga's Winter Wolf. The Winter Wolves can hurt quite a lot because we don't really have a lot of protection against Ice Storm, but since there's just the one that got an attack off, it doesn't really matter too much.
Oops, wrong way, wrong way. It has happened before that players got confused because the way out of the cave and the way to the Levystone are similar. Some people have forgotten to pick up the Levystone and had to loop back around. It's especially on newer players, you can easily lose lots and lots of minutes there due to movement mistakes.
Okay, I'm gonna go for it. Aurora isn't dead yet, but I'll take a little longer.
It's probably faster for you to just heal up the mages and kill them off on the second fight in that case.
So right now we have the Levystone and we're gonna pick up the airship. The airship is really nice. It's the fastest form of overworld movement and has no encounters while you're traveling with it. So yeah, basically the reason why we pick it up first.
Yeah, so it's actually a little bit of it's probably one of the more recent route changes that are used in both routes. Back in the day, we actually used to go to the Citadel of Trials by ship still, which is actually faster by about a second on average, because we have to park the airship really far away from the Citadel. The thing is, after about 100 testing sessions from Double Drop, Canadian runner of this game, it actually turned out that even though it is faster to take the ship by about a second, he got to about the same result we did before. It ended up losing about 9 seconds in the overworld movement later on in the run. So it ends up still being faster, not because it's faster in and of itself, but more because it saves time further down the line.
This one's for you, Crrool.
Looks like Box is taking the safety save before the desert. This is a very uncommon safety save. But especially for a marathon setting, it's a good one to do. There is an encounter there, the Sandworms, where if they ambush you, they have a move called Earthquake, which can basically just instantly kill your entire party. It's only happened twice that we know of. Once during those 100 testing sessions that I mentioned, and once during the semi-finals of last year's tournament, where Lenafis actually died to that. and that ended up winning me the race. So it's a very uncommon way to die. It's not very common that Citadel of Trials really is a big changing factor, but it can be, and for that reason alone, it's considerable to save just before going into this place.
So yeah, the Citadel of Trials, a nice teleporter maze. There are some dangerous encounters here. You have, for example, Medusas, which can petrify you. Mind Flayers, which, as mentioned before, can do great damage to your party.
Yeah, two interesting things about the Citadel. First and foremost, the guy that we talked to at the start, in the NES version, you actually had to show him your crown, which you picked up earlier in order to fight Astos. Later on, the developers realized it's kind of not needed, so they cut that out starting the PSX version. Another little thing is that the encounter, or the danger value of this game, basically the value that determines whether, or your likelihood of getting an encounter on the next tile, it actually resets every single time we go into a teleporter. So it's actually very uncommon to get a lot of encounters on the first floor here, because you reset that danger value so many times. So it's just one of those ways that, because of the way that the dungeon works, encounters aren't very common if you move optimally.
You may notice us picking up 2 chests in this dungeon. These chests are the gauntlets and the healing stuff. They are used to glitch a couple of items. In addition, the gauntlets are used on my route to deal with unrunnable enemies later.
Yeah, interestingly enough, this is actually the one dungeon in the run that you can completely skip out on. You don't actually have to do this. However, we actually didn't used to do this in a very old route of this run. I'm talking like 2 years ago at this point, so it's a very long time ago. But what we used to do is we used to actually not do this, and we grinded up the White Mage all the way to level 33 so that she would learn Hilaga, which is the upgraded form of the healing spell that we're going to get. It turns out, however, that because of the Lordly Robes, which you glitch from the Healing Staff, and because of the Golden Staff, which you glitch from the Gauntlets, you actually get so much additional intelligence that you don't really need to grind so much more. So we save about 6 minutes just on the grinding because of that, and that cut down grinding times a lot. We actually got to this because of the old bosses run. When we started to route this, we figured, class change is basically required, and that's when it turned out that this was actually a viable strat for any percent as well. That was probably the first really, really big change that we had about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Do I have time to announce something?
Go ahead.
We've got a $20 donation from WePlayer2 who says, "You can do it, Indy!" Greetings from Waldy / WePlayer2 and Inexus. And also the Hellfire Chasm incentive only needs $70 to be met, so please get those donations in very quickly because we have very little time before the Hellfire Chasm arrives.
And we're gonna give you guys a bit of a sneak peek of what Hellfire is like soon, because we're gonna go into probably Indy's favorite dungeon of the game.
It is.
I will leave the explaining to him when we get there. We do have to do a few little side things before we go there. I think that Box does 1 or 2 more than the rest of us do.
I do it differently, a complete different order, basically.
But first and foremost, we're going to get a class change here at Bahamut. We're going to pick up a few spells, specifically the 3 that I mentioned. I believe Box is going to go get the Oxy Ale in the meantime, which Indy and me will be picking up at a little bit of a later point. And then we'll be using the airship to get to Mount Gulg, which is where the second of the crystals is. Because, we're about close to an hour in, and we really ought to be picking up a crystal right about now. So we're going to be doing just that.
And we're going to pick up 3 spells. Hilara, which Crrool already mentioned, is not as strong as Hilaga, but with the amount of intelligence our White Mage will get, is definitely enough for the final fights. Then we get a teleport skill for our Black Mage, which allows us to leave one floor of the dungeon, which we're gonna use in the Sunken Shrine, the second next dungeon. And we're gonna get ourselves the spell Haste, which works a little bit different in this game, because here with Haste we increase the amount of attacks our characters deal, which we're gonna use in the final 2 fights against Tiamat 2 and Chaos, so we're gonna do more damage at those.
Yeah, so just to give an idea of how powerful that, the Haste spell is, basically Haste effectively doubles the amount of damage that we deal. So you gotta imagine, we've already got the most powerful sword in the game, which in and of itself allows us to deal like 1000 damage no problem. And we're gonna start doubling that because of this spell. So it makes the final fight not so much a joke just yet, but it's pretty much right that. It's a pretty overpowered spell to have.
One angle, the encounter I just got on my right before at the desert, the Ogre Mage Hellhound is a very peculiar one. You can also get that encounter, please NPC. Get that encounter in the dungeon they'll be visiting soon. But unfortunately, it can also happen that you have 0 Hellhounds or 0 Ogre Mages in your encounter. So you only see the Ogre Mages and the Hellhounds or Helmhounds, and you still can't run away from them.
So yeah, Indy, how about you go explain the great thing about Mount Gulg?
Oh
This is what Hellfire Chasm will be like as well.
Most likely, yeah. This is Mount Gulg. You're gonna see us running on the lava tiles as much as possible, because every time you step on the lava tile you get 1 damage, but you will get no encounters there. So we basically do a lot of lava boosts here, and on that point, shoutouts to our boy M3, who loves lava boosts as much as I do. And we're gonna do a lot of lava boosts in Hellfire Chasm as well, if you wanna see us do this. So yeah, get your donations in for that. It's a pretty cool dungeon.
Do I have time to announce something?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The Hellfire Chasm has been met.
Nice.
Nice. That means that 2 new bid wars will open up, and I quickly wanna specify those for you guys. There's 2 bosses that we're gonna be fighting. The first one we're gonna cut off a little, like as the first person gets like on the 3rd floor of Hellfire, the other one on the 8th. The first bid war is going to be between Mylon or Scarmiglione and Cagnazzo, the Earth Elemental Fiend, and the Water Elemental Fiend from Final Fantasy IV. The second one will be between Rube Cante and Barbarisha, the Wind and Fire Elemental Fiends from Final Fantasy IV. So yeah, those bid wars will now actually open up. Let's see what bosses we're actually gonna have to end up fighting.
I actually don't really care. I mean, we have practiced mostly the slower bosses, so we should be definitely prepared, but they are all for very cool. And in Hellfire Chasm on the 5th and the 10th floor we have to fight 1 of each, so you decide which boss we're gonna fight.
So yeah, this is another one of those places where we're going to get a quick idea of what kind of time we're at. Ideally, you want to get Merilith, the 2nd crystal, before the 1 hour mark. It looks like both me and Box are easily going to get that. Looks like Indy's going to miss that by a little bit, but he should still be in a fine position to get an okay time out of this.
Once again, you see how overpowered your equipment is in general.
So yeah, now right here is where Indy and me will be doing the part that Box did just now. We're going to get a couple of Giant's Tonics, and we're going to get the Fairy. The Giant's Tonics are mostly for safety during the final boss fight. We don't really need them outside of that. The Fairy is in order to get the Oxy Ale, and I believe in the meantime Box is going to be picking up the spells that we got earlier.
Hellfire Chasm opening up.
Yeah, you just see that Box unlocked the Hellfire Chasm. There are 4 bonus dungeons in total, and the 4 elemental bonus dungeons you unlock every time after you got the crystal, and the last one you can enter as soon as you have beaten Tiamat.
Yeah, so there's 5 dungeons that we can go through. One is tied one is tied to a dungeon. Every crystal has one tied to them. Those are the 4 that you find in the GBA version, for example, as well. And then there is one dungeon that you get once you have all 4 of the crystals, the Labyrinth of Time, which you only get if you have all 4 of the crystals done. It's the toughest of the dungeons, and it's basically pretty close to the final dungeon. So pretty cool dungeons to go through. Honestly, like, I mean, I'm personally more of an all bosses runner than I am an any percent runner. But all bosses goes through all of those dungeons along with, you know, basically everything you do in any percent as well. Really fun dungeons to check out. Definitely recommend trying those out yourselves. I believe both of these runners are planning to learn all bosses in the foreseeable future. So hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more of those bonus dungeons. At least from our end, and who knows, maybe we'll get to show that off next year. So this is where you're going to see Box and me kind of sync up a little bit again. Box getting a little bit of a lead, but it's really a small one at that. And we're both going to be moving on to Onrak, which is where the 3rd of the crystal dungeons is placed, specifically where we're going to find the water crystal. This is the crystal that we're actually supposed to do next, and for any speedrun category out there for this game, it's always going to be the crystal before the wind crystal. Reason for that being that there's an item in that dungeon that we need to get in order to be able to unlock the dungeon with the wind crystal.
Also, my route starts to pick up more pace at this point. Sunken Shrine is a dungeon with a lot of unrunnables, and the extra items I've got really get to shine here because of their shorter animations.
Right, I got my spells, so it's time for some lava boosts.
Lava boost hype.
Yeah, so this is that dungeon where it really depends on what kind of encounters you get as to which route ends up being faster. This is probably the dungeon where that becomes most prevalent. If you get a lot of runnable stuff, it's the classic route is a bit faster. If you get a lot of unrunnables, then the newer route is a lot faster. There's 3 unrunnables specifically that we're going to be seeing. There's the Sahagan Prince-in-Chief, which I just actually got. There are water elementals, which are actually runnable if there is a water naga tied to them. And then there is ghosts. All 3 of those are unrunnable. And all 3 of those are very common as well.
So yeah, right now I'm almost at the Rosetta Stone floor. The Rosetta Stone we need to pick up in order to do a little quest to unlock the next dungeon. The nice thing about this floor is that there's no encounters. So we can just freely walk around this little bit winding floor. The ghosts you see on Crrool stream are another one of the unrunnables. Mostly I'll be using the mage staff and the gauntlets here to deal with unrunnables. Mage staff against the ghosts, gauntlets against the Sahagans, and at this point still the judge. Oops, one more teleport. At this point, still the judgment staff against a lot of water elementals, as my white mage just barely lacking the power to deal with them with the black ropes. But after the next equipment glitch, which is in this dungeon, my white mage can even use black ropes to speed that unrunnable encounter up. So far I haven't had to use any of my items. Water Naga, water elemental still runnable.
So regarding the Hellfire Chasm, we just managed to open 2 separate bid wars as Indy requested. Would you like to talk a bit about those bid wars so people can get their donations in for those?
Yeah, definitely. So we've got the 2 bid wars. As mentioned, it's between the bosses that we're going to fight. So Hellfire Chasm has random floors for basically every single floor except floors 5 and 10. Those are the 2 boss floors of the dungeon. Floor 5 will have Cagnazzo and Scarmiglione, 2 of the Archfiends from Final Fantasy IV. Cagnazzo is an earth elemental boss, but also uses a lot of poison attacks, and that's where that boss becomes notoriously difficult as well. It's also the only of those bosses that's actually a two-part fight, in that you first fight Scarmiglione himself, and then afterwards Scarmiglione Z, or Mylon Z, as he was called in the SNES version. We're going to be fighting either one of those two. Now, if you'll give me a minute, I'll try to explain the rest, but gotta quickly get that equipment glitch menu done here as well.
Just as I'm making my way to the Kraken, I'm on the last floor of the dungeon, and here I can actually use my black robes, I think. So
yeah, the other boss there, Cagnazzo, that's the Fiend of Water. It's pretty dangerous boss, mostly because of its tsunami attack, which is a pretty powerful elemental attack. So that'll be the other fight. Both those pretty cool bosses. Then on the 10th floor, we find the second of the boss floors, and there's two bosses that we can fight there. Barbarisha is a bit of a tougher fight in that Cyclone is a really powerful spell, even that late into the game for us. We're not really on all bosses set up, so that specifically is going to be a pretty dangerous boss for us. The other one, it's a bit of a longer walk, mostly, as the fight against Rubicante, which is the fire elemental fiends. Rubicante is mostly noticeable because of his Scourge attacks, which is a really powerful fire elemental attack, but it only uses that on one party member. It's also of the four bosses, it's the one with the most health. It's the hardest one to get down. So yeah, those are the four bosses that we get to fight, and again, it's really down to whichever gets donated the most for.
106 for cracking down, that's not bad.
Yeah, I'll have a high 106 as well. So Box and me pretty close together still. Looks like Indy is about to head into the dungeon.
Might make it to the dungeon right as I leave it.
Time for a donation?
Go ahead.
This one is $5 from Nick _. He says, shoutouts to the amazing Crrool, good luck, and reminder that Crrool already won.
Wow.
Thank you, Nick.
Well, maybe in this race, but Hellfire Chasm is a completely different setup.
So far, I'm still ahead.
Yes, you still are, Box, but don't count yourself done yet.
No, it's not done until Chaos is down, basically. Because there's so much that can happen still.
So we're going to get out of this place, and we're going to head into the Waterfall Cave. In a very old route of this game, we actually used to do Waterfall before the Sunken Shrine. The main reason we do it afterwards is because we now have a bit of a better chance of running away from encounters. Waterfall Cave is where we're going to get the Warp Cube, as well as one more piece of equipment, the Ribbon. The Warp Cube is going to be helping us to get into the final dungeon. It's one of the last pieces that we actually need in order to go there. The Ribbon is the first item that will actually give us elemental resistance. The Ribbon itself gives us 50% resistance against every single elemental spell in the game, on top of which it grants us immunity from every single status effect in the game. So it's a really useful item to have, because it both functions as a protection against what's so far probably been the most dangerous thing, being status effects, with the Paralock that we saw earlier, with the Petrification that we've had to go through. And on top of that, it's also a really good piece of defense for several of the boss fights coming up. Now, one difference you'll see is that Box, I believe, won't be equipping it on everybody just yet, but we'll be equipping it on some of the party members, and we'll be doing the rest of that later. So that's actually where a bit of a difference is going to come in. So this Cockatrice Pyralisk encounter, another spiked tile. I got really unlucky in getting a 9 encounter ambush here. It's a bit unfortunate, but so far, luckily, they've been treating me fairly well. And we're also coming up on the best line of text in the game, which is as we talk to this robot over here. And yeah, you'll see it right here.
Hey, we've synced up.
Both synced up on picking it up.
Well, but it's a little different.
So here we get his best line of the game. It's Buzz Whir. So what we're going to do in order to get the ribbons is we're going to glitch it onto, or back into a weapon, and then onto the armor, and then from the weapon, again, back into the shield slot as a ribbon. Now, the ribbon itself is not actually a shield. Instead, it's a helmet, but it's one of the few items that we can equip on the shield slot without having a chance of hard locking the game. So far, we've kept that slot cleared because a lot of items, if you equip it there, will have a chance of hard locking the game because it tries to call up an animation that doesn't exist.
I have a lordly robes on my shields, white mage shield slots. The reason that it does is because it doesn't hard lock the game, obviously, and because it raises the magic power of my white mage, allowing it to use the items to great effect. Oops, wrong way again. Good number, good Dr.
So we're going to go down to...
How fast can you learn a language in this game? Well, apparently it takes somewhat on the course of 20 seconds.
Yeah, so this is one of those places. This is where we need the Rosetta Stone. We're going to talk to him, and we're going to see what he says. We're going to get that language learned, and we're going to get Lufenian as our new language. Now, I want to give a quick shout out to my boy Chrono Kirby. I don't know if he's actually going to be watching during the first Final Fantasy Relay, and this still haunts him to this day. He actually forgot to learn Lefenian and went to Lefenia not knowing the language, and that lost him a lot of time. It's one of those little things that almost every runner has forgotten at some point, and it loses like along the lines of 4 to 5 minutes if you forget it. So it's a very painful mistake to make. Yeah, the walk to Lefenia, pretty notorious walk as well. Minotaur zombies and trolls are mostly what's going to be blocking your path here.
I could have mage stuff for the Minotaur zombies, so that makes it a little quick. Wow, my encounter luck.
So yeah, ideally you just don't want to get those, period. If you do want to get those, especially for the classic route, as few as possible, because we don't have as good a way of dealing with it. If it's 4, we'll have to use the Judgment Staff, which costs 8 seconds, I believe. Compared against, I believe, 4 seconds from the Mage's Staff, 4 to 5 seconds. So it's on 2 encounters, it's still fine. On 3, then the classic route is definitely a bit slower here. Luckily, there is also a lot of stuff that you can run from one encounter near the end. Otherwise, we would have synced up in Lufenia again. That would have been pretty beautiful.
Lufenia is an NPC hell. There are so many NPCs that can block your way.
Yeah, this is literally...
We got lucky.
Did you get lucky as well?
I didn't.
I got lucky on this one. But yeah, it's one of those places where NPCs just block you everywhere. And before we got teleport, because you need the class change for that, we actually had to walk back out as well. So you had 2 chances for every NPC to block you. It was quite painful. So yeah, back to the airship we go, and on to the last 3 dungeons of the game.
2. Oh yeah, well,
3 dungeons of the game. I know what I'm saying here, Box.
Yeah, I consider the next 2 1 dungeon.
So yeah, we've got the Mirage Tower left, which is kind of like an in-between dungeon. It's just the tower that happens to have the portal onto the dungeon after. We've got the Flying Fortress, which is where the last of the crystals is at. And we've got the final dungeon still left. So still a few chances to see what's going to happen. I should say the desert that Box is walking through, it has one really cool encounter that I don't think we'll see. There's a few really cool encounters in this game that we didn't really get to point out yet. But there's a 1 in 64 encounter, the Tyrannosaurus, which is it's just a really rare encounter. It really doesn't do much outside of that. However, in the Flying Fortress itself, on the last floor, there is a similar encounter, another 1 in 64, that is the War Mech. And now, I don't know if we're going to see that. We're probably not, because I will be honest, I have not ever had it in a marathon run before. It's the rarest encounter in the game.
My chant is ready.
But if we happen to get it, I'm hoping to see a few war mechs in the chat here because it is a really, really good encounter to get. It's a 1 in 64 encounter that gives the most experience and money of any encounter in the game. It's also a really dangerous encounter in that he has some really, really powerful moves. But if we happen to get it, it's just several levels that you get out of it instantly, and it's really, really useful.
So far I'm not doing too bad on the health of my ninja and black mage, honestly.
Yeah, me neither. I've got pretty good health rolls so far. We'll be looking at that mostly for the final dungeon.
Evil Eye? Nope. Oh! Dang. Evil Eye is unrunnable as before. I accidentally pressed the shoulder buttons. I was a little bit too greedy there.
So yeah, the blue dragon you see here, that's another spiked tile. We're guaranteed to get that. I believe Box got 2 blue dragons.
One.
Oh, you only got 1? I thought I saw a second one on your end.
Nope.
Must have seen that wrong. And then it's onto the Flying Fortress. Pretty short dungeon. Pretty fun dungeon to go through. This is one of those dungeons that basically tries to set you up for the final part. It has got a lot of items, mostly. A lot of really good pieces of equipment that you can use for the final dungeon. It's got the Adamantite, which you can use to make Excalibur, in the NES version, like the second most powerful sword in the game.
War mech?
Box, please.
Yeah, I have a chance for this floor.
So yeah, this place really tries to set you up in order to just give you like all of the stuff you would need in order to be able to beat the game near the end. You're of course still going to need a bunch of levels and the likes, but this is that dungeon that really gets you ready for the end game.
I use slightly different strats here because I only have 2 barbarian swords equipped, so I haste my ninja, which should give me the 1 turn.
Can I cut in real fast?
Go ahead.
I'd just like to remind people to please donate for the Final Fantasy Hellfire Chasm Bosses Bid Wars. We've got both of those up right now, and Hellfire Chasm is coming up.
How are they doing at the moment?
They're all tied up.
Okay. That says enough.
So yeah, it's time for Tiamat on my end. Let's see how this fight is going to go.
Maybe I get Warmech on the way out.
Oh, we could. And if not, Indy still has to go there as well, so there's still another chance to get that War Mech ready.
Whisperwind Cove, an amazing bonus dungeon, a very long bonus dungeon.
Yeah, Whisperwind Cove is probably the longest bonus dungeon in the game. It's 40 floors, all of them in random order. Its sheer length is why we didn't decide to put that in here. Because it just takes a lot of time to go through it, but it's a really, really fun dungeon to go through casually. It references a bunch of other Final Fantasies as well. Definitely recommend going for that.
Perfect. Chaos Shrine, welcome back. The first dungeon of the game, the last dungeon of the game.
Yeah, so this is where Box is going to be using the light of the 4 crystals to travel 2,000 years into the past so that he can fight Garland one more time and stop the time loop from happening.
Here you see the Labyrinth of Time opening up, the PSP exclusive, PSP and mobile exclusive dungeon, I should say. Because apparently there's a mobile version of this game.
So yeah, well, over the course of the Chaos Shrine, you'll see a few enemies that might look very much like enemies we've seen before. There's a lot of oh, the 1 in 64. I'm just gonna kill this. That's the 1 in 64 Tyrannosaurus. Let's get some hype for that one. That is one of the rarest encounters in the game. It's also one of the 3, I believe, unique 1 in 64s, meaning you can only get it with a 1 in 64 chance. So it's actually among the 3 rarest encounters in the game.
White dragons are really painful still, because of their Ice Storm attack. Okay. Luckily, you only encountered you are only on that floor twice in this dungeon. Let's go. Here we get another mini Spectral boss coming up.
Yeah, so first he's going to be fighting the Death Eye, which is it's actually a pretty tough boss casually, and then he has a lot of defense. But because of our swords, we don't care about that when we just one-shot him.
Yeah.
And after that, you know, I called at the start of the game that about an hour, 20 minutes in, we'd be using the loot. And, well, Box is the first to use that here. He's going to be using the loot to open up this stone slab. Now, I believe there's like one NPC somewhere in the game that mentions that you have to do something like that. Other than that, you get virtually no hints to using that in the original version of the game, because in both PSX and NES, you actually have to do that manually. So you have to figure out that you actually still need to use that thing, even though you got it like 3 minutes in. And on top of that, you need to actually, you know, figure out that that is how you get through that part.
Mega Elixir
I
drop.
imagine a lot of casual players have gotten stuck just on that.
This is another save I'll be taking. Short yet dangerous floor.
Yeah, the first floor is probably the most dangerous of all the floors because of the white dragons that are over there. It's really the floor that you just want to get away from as quickly as you can, because once you get to the bottom floors, the encounters actually become a little bit safer as well. Basically, all of these floors use encounters that you encountered earlier on in the game. Where, you know, on this floor, you'll mostly see the Earth-like encounters, fire encounters on the next one, and then water and air. And that mostly has to do with the boss of every single one of these floors. Every floor here has a boss fight that we're going to have to go through. Specifically, starting with, you know, a boss that we may have seen a little bit earlier on. That box is going to come up in just a little bit. All of these bosses are a little bit more powerful than they were before, so it's they've grown quite strong, but they're pretty cool bosses to fight here.
Case could petrify you earlier on, but now I have ribbons, so yeah. It's just annoying that I got the ambush here. That's all. Easy to run away from. And I am gonna take a safety heal before Lich, because Lich does have very powerful spells. That guy is no joke.
Time for a donation.
Go ahead.
We have $10 from 7 Sins, who says, "Here's $10 for my boy Rubicante, who really, really does not like people trying to steal his cape."
Ooh.
Oh, there's the Flare. That's the most powerful spell that Lich 2 has, and at the health that Box is at, it's a very dangerous spell. With the White Mage surviving at 23.
Not gonna take risks. This should kill him. I think. Yeah.
Okay, looks like he got through the fight. That was rough.
That is so dangerous.
So yeah, that is probably where the newer route is a little bit more dangerous than the older route, in that in the newer route you don't have as much chances to deal damage to him. Not to mention he had pretty bad HP rolls on his warrior and his white mage, which made that even worse.
White Mage pulled through luckily, because yeah, usually White Mage pulls through when a flare is cast.
Yeah, but it was a damage range on the white mage there, so it's definitely scary to get that.
So yeah, up next is Merilith. Luckily the other bosses aren't as dangerous. Although Tiamat is in the newer route to some extent dangerous, but not anywhere close to lethal. Just gonna do this one to guarantee it.
Okay, so this is a bit of an issue on my end. I'm getting a couple Earth Elementals, and these are also unrunnable encounters. They were a 1 in 64 in the Cavern of Earth that we were in way, way back in this run. But now they're a pretty common encounter, and they're kind of trolling me. B3, the one that Box just entered, is probably the most RNG heavy floor remaining. It's got a lot of, it's got a pretty common water elemental encounter, which even though they're pretty quick to deal with for Box, they can still lose him quite a bit of time. So yeah, time for Lich 2 on my end. And that's Lich 2 for me. So I didn't get flared, so that saves me a little bit of time here. Looks like Box is getting some pretty alright RNG for the Kraken 2 floor.
You jinx it.
Good, that means I can catch up.
Really?
But you'll see Box using the black robes there to deal with those pretty quickly.
This is the last, basically the last type of unrunnable I have to deal with. Kraken, let's go.
So yeah, the Kraken 2 floor can take anywhere between 55 seconds and 2 minutes, usually, depending on your RNG. So it's a massive variety of time-wise that you can get there.
We're one floor apart.
That looks like we're exactly one floor apart. It's pretty close, actually. Okay, like if Box gets a bad chaos, that could easily make a pretty big difference here. It also kind of depends on how my Kraken 2 floor is going to treat me. Like if I get a really bad one, it could, you know, put him like 2 minutes ahead of me.
Not gonna lie though, it was on my end it was pretty decent RNG.
But we'll see what happens. I have had this floor encounterless on 2 occasions right now. So it is possible. In that case, it's just under 55 seconds.
Oh, very good Tiamat RNG up until now. Oh.
So getting somewhat unlucky here with the actually runnable encounter not letting run.
Yes!
And that gives Box just that bit more time to take a steady lead.
Yeah, my last equipment glitch, which we'll do right before Chaos, is slightly longer. I have to re-equip the Black Mage, the Black Wizard. Yeah, after that, we're gonna... Oh, just to be safe, I'll do it one tile away. I've had it happen that I accidentally mismenued and triggered the fight, which is something you really don't want.
Let's see, maybe I get a little bit lucky on this floor.
Are we going to see that 1 in 64 Warmech finally?
Okay, last save to save. Here goes. Garland once again, but this time he takes on a slightly more feral appearance.
I mean, at the end of the day, he looks a little bit tougher, but he's really still a scrub. We don't really have to worry about Garland.
His spells are a menace, though. What you'll see me do here is use Giant's tonics to boost the health wherever needed. For example, on the Nika. And I'll go for a little extra safety by using it on the Black Mage as well. Theoretically, the Black Mage is in a range where he would be fine, but I'm not gonna take a risk here with this little lead I have.
So yeah, the time is coming up as soon as we see that boss flash white when he dies. So it's coming up pretty shortly for Box.
Yeah, I have the button, right?
Yeah. So taking my safety save here, and then I'll be going into the fight as well.
After I have my setup rounds done, it's basically hold X to win.
Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward fight. You boost up your warrior and thief, and the black mage, and then you just attack and hope you get through. It can be a little bit dangerous if he gets a crit off early on, but usually once you get past the first few turns, you're good to go.
Okay, hold X to win. Nami has a long animation, but at this point my health should be fine. Cyclone can be dangerous. He can use Cyclone in one of his magic cycles. Oh, this is fine. Physicals are really quick. Time coming up one of these turns. There we go. A low 130.
So yeah, I'm not too far off myself as well. We'll see what the difference ends up being. Looks like Indy has made his way into the final dungeon by now, so will be making his way to the final boss as well. So yeah, all in all, I got some pretty good cycles going. He used a lot of physical attacks for me, but this is where you see that, you know, the RNG just becomes quite prevalent, but that is chaos done as well. Less than a minute apart as well. That's pretty good.
Very well done.
So yeah, Indy looks like he's struggled a little bit, but he is getting close to the end as well. On the Death Eye fight now, he's going to start using his loot, and from there on make his way down into the last bit of the Chaos' Shrine. Now, in the meantime, I believe Box, the two of us will start setting up for Hellfire so that we can just start that immediately as soon as we're done with this this race. And then Indy can take your PSP once he's done.
Sure. Okay. Sorry for cutting off the music there.
So yeah, we're gonna cut that in a little bit.
Let's game.
Now, I do quickly want to ask the tech team on which audio is currently hearable for stream. Well, slightly curious as to which one that actually is, because there's some pretty hype stuff we can still do since we have some time still till Indy is done.
I'll set it up real quick. 7 or 8 teleports out of Chaos Shrine.
Yeah, it's a bunch of, in order to get to Hellfire, it's basically just a bunch of teleporting out. We don't have the option to just exit out, which is a spell, but we don't have that at this point.
Technically, we could have had an emergency exit drop from the purple worms in this dungeon, but yeah, that's rare.
Yeah, it's pretty rare, and we didn't get that, so this will have to do.
Let's see, it is... where am I? Oh, wait, I've already... no, wait, it's somewhere else. Never mind.
It's near the...
yeah, Bahamut's cave.
Near Bahamut's cave, yeah.
I just realized. Let's see, it should be
Okay,
somewhere
let's see.
in this
Indy
vicinity.
is back on
This is
floor
it.
1. Yeah, that's the one. So, since we'll have a little bit of time while Indy is finishing up, I quickly want to show off one little thing that we didn't really get into. Indy, I don't know if you want to explain 15 puzzle?
No, I'm not really good at it. I practiced it, but people saw me doing it and were like, yeah, no, just no.
You can get some Mega Alex. Basically, if you solve it under 30 seconds, you can get some pretty 30 seconds or under a minute. You can get some pretty rare items as a prize for clearing this minigame. Crrool, for example, could have early in the run gone for an emergency exit in this puzzle, which would save them a lot of time on the vampire encounter. Because after the vampire encounter, instead of trekking through the cave, he could have used an emergency exit to instantly teleport outside.
Okay, Lich 2 for me.
But it's RNG if you get a specific...
I got it. I got it. That's a 1 in 6 drop. It takes about a minute to get,
Nice.
and it saves about 2 minutes on average. So, you know, subtract the fact that it takes a minute to get, you'd save a minute if you get it, which
would have won
would have won me the race. But yeah, it's like it's a 1 in 6 drop with a minute lost if you don't get it. So it's for a marathon setting, it's just not worth it to go for it. But I quickly wanted to show off this puzzle. There are some pretty cool runs that do use it. Most runners don't go for it because on average it is significantly slower, and like I said, it costs or it would add a lot of resets, mostly because you'd be running up to the pirates, and you know you want to get a good pirates first and foremost, and then 5 out of 6 runs would die immediately after to not getting it. So it's really something that there's only a few runners that go for it. I have had a few runs where I personally had one run where I actually had it, where I decided to go for it because I was already quite a bit behind, and that ended up being a really good pace run. So
dying to the final boss itself.
Dying to the final boss on what was back then world record pace. So it's what can happen. But that emergency exit it's pretty cool to see. I quickly figured I'd show that off since we had the time for it anyway. And I guess I'll make my way through to Hellfire Chasm as well.
Looks like Indy got a flare on the Lich earlier.
Yeah, he got flared on Lich and is now just past Merilith 2, so he's got 3 more floors to go and then he's done as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be cutting it rather close on the estimate. I don't know if he'll still be able to make it. He'll need some pretty good RNG, that's for sure. And even then it would be cutting it close.
Just the Chaos Split is like 3 minutes or so. So this is...
Yeah, it's 2.5 minutes for a little bit under 2.5 minutes for a perfect fight. So he'll be unfortunately going over a little bit. But immediately after, we'll be good to go for the Hellfire Chasm right here.
I have everything ethered and healed up. So
Barbarian Sword on the White Mage.
good one. I forgot about that.
Survival Vest back on.
On the White Mage?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll equip it back. Let's see. I think it's a better idea if I switch them around just for a bit. So I can do the Barbarian Swords. Survival Vest only on
Survival Vest on armor, yeah.
Okay.
Time for a quick donation.
Go ahead.
We have $50 from Anonymous, who says, "Great stuff, everyone. Thank you so much for the $50 contribution."
Let's see.
I will quickly mention we're going to be cutting off the incentive for the first of the bosses as soon as the first of the two of us ends up on the 3rd floor of the Hellfire Chasm, and that can be within a minute of entering this place because, as I said, the floors are in random order, so we don't know what we're going to get here. So the first of those 2 bid wars between Cagnazzo and Scarmiglione can be cut off within a few minutes. So if you still want to get something in for that and tip the favors, now is the time. Do we currently have someone that's in the lead?
Yes, we do. It's currently Cagnazzo in the lead.
Cagnazzo. Okay, so yeah, if you want to see Scarmiglione, you'll have to be, you know, right about now.
Is my equipment all set up correctly?
Looks like it's good, yeah.
Okay.
Looks like it's a good set of equipment.
Boyo.
I don't have Poyo, I'm sorry.
You have, I think you actually have, well, except for Gumi, completely different names.
Yeah, it's only one name that we have the same. So and Worm is in on my end as well, which is on the Ninja for Indy. So looks like Indy is about to start his final boss fight. Just go for it, Indy. Just go for it.
I'm gonna call it that Poop the White Mage has gotten me the better RNG.
I was pressing triangle.
Yeah, so he accidentally didn't save, but we'll see what happens.
You can do it.
We'll get there, and if we don't, then we'll just move on to
YOLO.
the Hellfire race.
Normally, if you finish with the equipment and such, then you should.
Yeah, it's generally a fairly
be
safe fight to
fine.
go for. I haven't actually looked at the HP rolls, but it looks like he's pretty good. His White Mage is at over 400, which is nice. Out of safety, he'll probably Giant's Tonic the Ninja as well, because 280 is cutting it rather close. And from there, we should be fine, honestly. The only one that's a little bit dangerous is the Black Mage, but that's the least important character here.
Should be close.
I don't know if the Black Mage will survive. Okay, ooh, that
Very
19 health. That means that the Black Mage is alive. It's still a bit dangerous. We'll have to see what he does on the second turn. If he goes for something good on the second turn, then we're basically good to go. If he goes for a Tsunami, there's a big chance the Black Mage will die off.
Cyclone is also a.
Cyclone can't happen yet.
Blizzaga, Earthquake, which would be a free turn. since we can't die.
It's either physical Blizzaga or Tsunami, and he goes for the Tsunami. Not sure if the Black Mage will survive.
I don't think so.
Did he get the haste off?
No.
Ooh, those rules. Now the dangerous
Wow.
part. The dangerous part now is that the next move is in that cycle is Cyclone, and Cyclone is very dangerous as well. So even though we are in a decent spot, it's not quite done yet. Ideally, Blizzaga or a physical here. Looks like a physical.
Nice.
Looks like we're good to go on this fight.
So I got all the bad luck and getting very good RNG on this fight. At least something.
So yeah, from here on, it's hold X to win for Indy. Because he got that physical attack, he basically has enough health to survive throughout the rest of the fight. And there's the Blizzaga, so he's basically full up in health. Everybody close to 400 health at least, which should basically survive him just about everything. And that means time is coming up for Indy as well.
Speaking about healing, Chaos can also use Kuraja, which heals him about like 10,000.
It's 9,999 that heals up. However, he can only do that after a set of other spells, including Blizzaga and Earthquake. Cyclone is his slowest move, but it's on the pattern that doesn't have Kuraja on it, so he should be safe here. So yeah, just as a heads up for the tech team, there we go, time for Indy as well. It's a rough run, but good job on finishing it anyway. So yeah, we're going to be using Box's PSP for Indy, and then we're going to be using my PSP for my end. So feel free to switch over, and we'll get going into the Hellfire Chasm. So yeah, as soon as you guys on tech are ready for that, just give us a heads up, and we can get our timer started.
All right, we have $5 from Hans, who says this is for Leatherman Jacket's choice.
So Legrand, what is it for? It looks like for Scarmiglione then. Okay, the Earth Boss. So that's for $5 for Scarmiglione then. So I'm gonna quickly peek over towards tech whether they're ready to go.
You still need to switch your names. Because Box is now Indy, technically.
If you could, would it be possible to go into a two-player layout with Indy on Box's PC and me on my own PC with a new timer?
There we go. Crrool and IndDragPack.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, so I'm. We'll see what happens. Okay. Okay, Box, can you start the timer for us?
Sure.
And estimate is 10 minutes.
Yeah, in case you want to change the estimate, it's 10 minutes. But yeah,
That's fine.
let's get moving on this. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go. So yeah, as we said, this is the Hellfire Chasm, 10 floors all in random order with random spawns, so it's a whole lot of random, really.
Crrool is on the floor with no random encounters, but the glistering things you might see every now and then are the spike tiles, so he always gets encounters on those.
That'd be Indy that's on that.
Oh, sorry. Whoops. Right
So yeah,
side,
I got pretty much worst possible spawn on the first floor, and this is one that I wasn't able to instantly recognize, and that's kind of one of those things with this dungeon. You got to instantly recognize what floor you're on. I think neither of us got worst spawn on the villager floor. I think we both got the medium spawn here. There's 3 different spawns that you can get on that floor. The leftmost one being a very, very annoying one to go for. So I think we're going to cut off the incentive as soon as Indy passes this floor. So we're about to cut off the incentive for the bosses.
Scameglion or Cagnazzo. One of those.
Most random encounters in this dungeon are runnable. I'm not sure if you can get the death elementals.
Yeah, death elementals are a thing, and there's one other one that's also unrunnable. There's not a lot, but there are a few unrunnables here. They're all in all pretty rare, though. Okay, so we're going to cut off that incentive right now. So if you could give me a quick update as to what boss won the bid war for Scarmiglione versus Cagnazzo.
That will be Cagnazzo.
Okay, so we'll be going down here towards Cagnazzo, and this is why we had to cut that off after floor 3 already, because as you can see, I'm already on that floor now. Goes really, really fast. We are going to be taking safety saves before both of these bosses. We really shouldn't need them, but you're a lot lower level than you would normally be in an all bosses run. So we're going to kind of just play it safe here.
Also want to point out that if you want to have a preference between Rubicante or Barbaricia, get them in real fast because that's gonna pass sooner than you think.
Yeah, Rubicante and Barbaricia is going to be cut off within the next few minutes as well, so you'll have to be really, really fast if you still want to snipe that. Because that is Cagnazzo down on my end. That's the first of the 2 bosses. And we're going to go into the latter 5. Now, just because I might have a lead does not mean this is done yet, because, again, random floors, random spawn points, random order, so Indy might have already had a big one. I got lucky on the world map. This is a floor. There can be 3 completely different maps that we can get. They're completely different floors altogether. I got the fastest one, which is really lucky for me. The difference between the fastest one and the slowest one is close to 1.5 minutes, so it's a pretty significant difference. Both the fast one and the medium one are pretty close together. They're about 15 to 20 seconds apart. And I don't think India's had the world map just yet, so we'll see which of the maps he's going to get. Ideally, we don't see the bad one.
I want to see NPC Hell.
NPC Hell already happened, Box. Yeah. We've already passed that point.
Box, please.
Box, please. Still new to the all bosses category.
Okay, so another fire floor. Indy has actually got a fire floor that doesn't have a random spawn. It's the only one that has a set spawn point. It's also one of the longest fire floors out there. I got good spawn on the fire shrine. I think Indy did as well.
No, I got bad spawn.
Oh, you got bad spawn?
Yeah.
I did get a really annoying bat in my way here. This is...
please.
That's a fantastic way that bats can just troll you in this game.
Bats in general.
Bats are just bad.
Bats in general tend to troll you in RPGs.
Okay, so I'm on my last floor now, which is the same floor I believe that Indy is on as well. So with Indy still having a good few things to do. I got very lucky throughout this run. I got a lot of good spawns.
We're gonna cut it off, right?
Yeah, we're gonna cut that incentive off right now as well. So Indy getting the bad world map. That's
yay! More bad RNG. I love it.
He's really not getting the luck today. That's for sure. But yeah, if you could tell me which of the bosses will be the second one that we're gonna fight.
That will be Rubicante.
Okay.
Okay, that's pretty good. So yeah, Indy getting very unlucky. The thing with this floor specifically is you have to actually get the airship, which is on this map. You don't generally go for it. I think you're too low, Indy. Might just be me, but I don't know the route that you're taking. I always go left, so there's not really a time difference between going right or... Oh no, you're good. You're good. My bad. There's not really a time difference between going left or right, but it just looks very, very different. So even if you get the same floors, it's rather finicky. So yeah, he has to now find the pirate, which is on a really small little island. And then from once he's talked to the pirate, he can just go straight down and head towards the exit. In the meantime, I'm going to start fighting this guy. Now, I'm going to actually start healing up with my White Mage, because Scourge deals a lot of damage, as you'll see right here. My ninja barely surviving that. Haste up, make sure that everybody can deal as much as possible damage. Physical attack there, so time on my end is coming up. Time is as soon as the boss flashes white as he's dead. Cool. So, let's see what the end time for this is. This dungeon, again, the time difference here is solely just to the randomness of this dungeon. This has got nothing to do, but that's time on my end. 6:34 is the second fastest run I've done, if I include my practice runs. So that's a really, really solid run all throughout. This chest here, by the way, has the 4th and last ribbon. There are 4 ribbons in the game. This one is the last one. So yeah, that is Final Fantasy 1 for the PlayStation Portable. We'll still be seeing Indy pick up that airship. Again, just on this map alone, he loses a minute and a half over me, which is complete RNG. There's nothing he could have done about that. That is the true randomness of Hellfire Chasm, and that's kind of where this dungeon becomes very interesting as well, because he's got a floor that I didn't even have. But he gets the airship. It's just a quick bit to the left, and then he can finally get towards the exit and move on to the next floor. Looks like he got another bad spawn here where I got the good spawn. This is... he is literally getting bad spawns on every single floor here. There's 4 floors, I believe, that you can really get a bad spawn on. That's the world map. He got the worst one there. That's this one, where he got the worst one. The Fire Shrine, where I got the best one and he got the worst one. And then the Villager floor, and that one we had the same. Both getting the medium spawn.
You know what? So, I should have stayed in bed. Like seriously.
This is Indy is definitely getting the worst possible luck in this dungeon. We set it to, you know, it would take roughly 10 minutes to beat this. I think in almost all of our practice runs, we stayed under that 10 minutes, except if you got worst possible outcome on everything, and Indy basically got just that. So it's just really unfortunate when that happens. But this is also kind of where all bosses becomes as much fun as it is. Okay, at least he got a good. At least he got the good spawn here. That's the best possible spawn. But yeah, this is kind of where all bosses shines as well. All bosses is very, very random as a result.
Okay, Rubicante, right?
Rubicante, yeah.
Nice.
There's so many ways that all bosses can just screw you over by giving you like worst possible everything in these dungeons. And that doesn't just go for this dungeon. There are several dungeons where, you know, your spawns matter so much. And that's kind of where the fun of all bosses is, because it's really difficult to learn as a result. But it's also where that dungeon becomes so difficult, and that entire run is just so tricky to do. So yeah, if you like, I strongly recommend anybody interested in learning a really easy RPG to try out FF1. It's a really easy-going RPG. It's a very relaxed run for the most. It's pretty RNG heavy, but it's really easy to learn. And if you're more up for a challenge, more than anything, I can recommend the all bosses category. It's a really fun category to do. It's pretty short still. Like it's a 4-hour run, which is a lot longer than this, but compared to most Final Fantasies, it's still pretty short. And it's just a lot of fun to go for, all in all. So at least Rubicante seems to be scorching the correct people, more or less. It's still a bit dangerous. We'll see what happens. Rubicante has quite a lot of health, so we'll see what happens. So yeah, time coming up for Indy as well on this.
Right switch.
See if he can get that. Doesn't get it yet. Does get a really low roll on his warrior, luckily. And that's time for Indy. So that is...
Whatever. Yeah.
Whatever. It was just mere seconds over that 10 minutes. So yeah, worst possible everything. That's a really, really solid time. I can definitely attest to that. So yeah, that was Final Fantasy 1. I'll be back tomorrow for some Evil Land. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of the marathon. Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you very much for watching.
Yeah, keep on donating to save the children.
Indeed, indeed. Offline.
Okay. Wow, you got so true. Wow, you got trolled. Wow.
Yeah.
I think Seth fell asleep.
What the actual
Yeah,
fuck?
I felt
I
sorry.
don't wanna.
I felt your pain.
Does someone have a bucket for me? Because I wanna throw up, like right now.
Yeah, but that's still plugged in.
It's still plugged in the back.
It was still plugged in, yeah.
And welcome back everyone to ESA 17, benefiting Save the Children. Hello KZ Fruit, back once again.
I'm still here.
How was your food? Was it good?
It was delicious. I scarfed it down during that run.
Was it better than the slice of cheese that I gave you from my sandwich?
Now that was so rude. Earlier today, I haven't eaten. Well, I just ate, but I didn't eat. And he gave me a slice of cheese off of his sandwich because he's such a generous person.
Would you rather me not have given you the slice of cheese?
Well, when you put it that way, I mean...
I didn't give anyone else a slice of cheese.
You're right. Well,
I had one slice of cheese and I picked you.
Well, I was the convenient choice because I was next to you.
I could have given it to anyone.
Yeah, well... Anyway...
Up next, we have Luigi's Mansion, No Out of Bounds. Are you excited, KZ Fruit?
I am excited. I know a guy who runs this game. I've seen a little bit about it. But it's been a while since I've watched a run. It's going to be interesting to see if anything's different.
Yeah, new strats. Usually, every time a marathon comes around, especially with like Mario and Luigi games, there's always something new. Strats are being found every day.
It's hard
And
to keep
then-
up with all that goes on in the speedrunning world.
Yeah. After that, we've got a Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage, and we've actually got a bid war for that coming up.
Really?
So are you going to donate to that, Casey Fruit? Going to whack a bit of your sub money in there?
You know it.
For the color of Spyro. So currently, Happy Yellow is winning with $105 towards it.
You can change that?
Yeah, apparently so. So, do you want it to be Happy Yellow?
I mean, let's see, what else we got?
You got Blaze It Green,
Okay, now that's not...
Floral Pink, Happy Yellow, Lusty Red, Ocean Blue, and Pitch Black.
Well, black isn't a color. Black is actually the combination of all the colors. So if you want to maximize your donation, you vote for the black one.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
because then you can vote for every color.
Exactly.
Every single shade of color that has ever existed.
And some that don't exist.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So, yeah, Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage, run by Saboom. He's quite the legend. He's very good at a lot of games.
And of course, thank you to everyone that helped us get towards the chasm from last game, the Hellfire Chasm.
That was entertaining to
Incentive,
see.
yeah. Certainly was a great thing to watch. The bosses looked extremely difficult. They looked like almost like an add-on from the final boss.
Yeah, it's not something that I really knew about in the original Final Fantasy. I only briefly played it on the NES. I didn't even know there was a PSP version until today.
So setup shouldn't be too long here, depending on how long Zoton decides to
Talk in my ear.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Zoltan.
yeah. So in the meantime, we can give some shout-outs to Sigma for their cash contribution towards the event. They made the gaming PCs that we all use for practice. I know I saw Casey Fruit practicing on the PCs over there.
And then hauled it over to the front desk for
Yep.
my run.
That would not have been possible without Sigma.
Oh.
So
Really?
thank you to Sigma.
I have
definitely.
them to thank. I'll donate to them too.
Yeah. And they also gave us workstation laptops for people like tech, and also Guitar Hero stuff. Are you a big fan of Guitar Hero, Casey?
I used to play a lot of Guitar Hero.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
Were you good?
Oh, I was very good. I could tap through Fire in the Flames like this. See,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
muscle memory right there.
Did you give it the old like elbow tap and then the double hand?
Yeah, the elbow tap. Well, that's what you do when you mess up. So you only ever
okay.
elbow tapped if you were bad. So I didn't do that.
So you don't do elbow tap?
No, no,
You're a tier above elbow tapping.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
what about the rest of the song, or was it just a 30-second intro you can do?
I think I passed it with 3 stars, which is the minimum you can do.
But that's impressive either way.
Yeah, I know. And then I
Medium,
called
of
it
course.
quits. No, medium. This guy.
This guy. So any other runs you're looking forward to today?
Well, let's take a look. We've got Link to the Past coming up.
Yeah.
Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. That's the race, of course. Drake Woodman talked about that earlier in the interview.
Yeah, in the interview
Yeah,
that we had.
very-
Check that if you didn't see it.
Very popular speed game.
Dark Souls.
Oh, man. I'm very bad at Dark Souls.
Everyone's very bad at Dark Souls.
Oh, man, we got Kingdom Hearts 2. That's tomorrow.
Yeah, about 7
Ukulele.
a.m.
We've got a lot of good stuff still on.
The
This
Incredibles as well.
Oh, The Incredibles. I had that game.
Was that the PS2 one?
I had it on the PC.
PC?
Yeah,
Oh.
although I had it on a netbook, so it barely ran.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. There's the Undertale Genocide.
This is our next block. We're doing Undertale.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
yes, you mentioned that.
Jazz Punk, Forced.
Right.
Forced is an interesting one. There's a bid war for Forced.
Oh, yeah, there is.
It's instead of having like name tags, it's based off your Steam picture. So if anyone wants some funny Steam pictures to be put in for Forced, be sure to get some links in. We can get any
guess-
link you want from the internet as long as it's PG-13, of course.
I guess they're going to
And,
be forced to use those Steam pictures.
can I take your pedal so you can't talk anymore? Can I take it from you?
No, wait a minute. This
Okay,
wasn't a
you
part of
can
the
hide this.
agreement. All right. No, that'll be interesting to see. Of course, that's at 2 in the morning, so I'm going to be passed out.
I
mean,
will be here because I'm a
well,
very
I'll be
loyal.
here.
I'll be a loyal attendee.
I'll be here, but I'll have sunglasses on so you can't see any of that.
Ah,
in the
yes,
sleep.
of course, yes. A lot of Pokemon incentives as well. A lot of things you can name in that. Mudkip, Bird, and the Trainer. Casey Fruit,
Yes.
if you were running Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire,
Okay.
at the end of a marathon, the big marathon to end all marathons, at the end of it,
Yeah.
the final run,
Okay.
what would you name your trainer? And it can't be Casey Frew.
Let's see. What do we have? Epic Dude. Come on, guys. We can do a lot better than Epic Dude.
Yeah. I think it goes as like a tier, like
Yeah.
Casey Frew, Epic Dude, everything else.
Wait a minute.
Am I right? Or
I
am
did not
right?
come over here to get roasted. This is not the roasting couch, sir.
It's the hosting couch.
It rhymes.
Yeah. I was gonna do something with that, but I couldn't think fast
Yeah,
enough.
but now I
so-
stole it from you, from
Yeah.
right under your feet.
Thank you, Casey Frew. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
for that. Yeah, so currently the it's top 4 for the forced Steam pitches, and currently it's the top one is a slam van from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Now, I know a thing or two about San Andreas.
Slam van hype.
Let me tell you, I'm clearly the most experienced San Andreas runner here.
Yep. And the second one is also one of your favorite summer modes.
Oh,
it's
yes?
F's safety first emote.
Oh, good old F. Yes.
We'll know if F is here or not because we'll see a one-hand forward slash in the chat.
What a guy.
Got it
there's
ready
a-
from tech.
There's someone
Zotan is
ridiculous
waving
at me.
Yeah. I don't
But
know if that means he's ready or if he's just been nice. You know, hi guys.
He just waved and now he's back to his job. Zotan, are you going to talk to me? Oh, it's
All right.
ready.
We're ready to go.
All right.
Luigi's
yes.
Mansion,
Luigi's
bounce.
Mansion. I'll put my feet up for this one.
Are we ready?
I think we are.
Well, okay, this red button over here or that one over there? Which one?
Yeah, just
So let me check both. No, none of them is working. Give me that one.
Oh, it's this one.
So nice. I have it really
Very
close to me.